topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners, and it is a wonderful day because it's Tuesday morning and I get to be with you. So I want to share something beautiful. I was walking out and about in the morning, and this summer has been very humid, more so than usual in North Carolina. And I see these two young gentlemen in their motor cart on the trail, and they're going into the bushes, coming out. And I just stopped and asked them, what they were doing. And what they shared was that in preparation of Debbie, as Debbie, the storm, makes her way from Florida through South Carolina to North Carolina, they were looking at the pipelines and the sewer lines, that everything was safe. And if there were any trees that could fall down upon it, they would go and cut it. So here I am talking about hello? So now what happened, a technical glitch. So as I was going to continue the story. So here I was already thinking in my head, oh gosh, this is so humid and I can get to the AC of my car. And here's all these thoughts are going in my head. And when I see these two young gentlemen out there spending the whole day to make sure that we are safe, that not only the trails are not flooded, but there's so many different houses that are next to these trails that if they don't take care of it, then the houses and the low-lying areas could get flooded. And I'm telling you, what happened was it just brought me back to being grounded, that how thankful I am that instead of having these thoughts, be grateful for what we have in our life. So I thank them for their kindness and for the jobs they do. And I want to thank you for getting our books, because through our books, not only you can change your life, you can impact others, and you're also helping us help entrepreneurs across kiva.org. So let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Tina.
Good morning. Thank you, Divya. Grateful to be here.
Well, it's awesome to have you. So Tell us, do you recall a moment from your childhood where there was a person or a situation or an event that left a positive mark on you?
That caused me what?
That left a positive mark on
Oh,
you.
that left a positive mark. Oh yeah, definitely. There's so many. One of them is my mom's best friend. She was just the neatest lady. She has since passed. But when I was very young, I had open heart surgery and I would have to go down and have checkups every once in a while. And she was just so bubbly all the time and never treated me as fragile. And I
Mm,
think that's the biggest thing in my life is that nobody ever, even though I had open heart surgery as a young baby and people told me I was lucky to be alive, nobody told me that I couldn't do something,
mm.
that I could do anything. And she was one of my biggest cheerleaders for that. And I think that's really why today I'm still healthy. I have no health issues and my heart is fine because everybody gave me that knowledge that I could do anything.
And that's powerful that you could do anything.
Exactly.
And we are glad that you're doing healthy and leading the way for others to see that yes, you can go through the tough times, yet you can
Mhm.
emerge strong and resilient.
Exactly.
So when you were a little girl, I know you delve into numbers right now. Were numbers your favorite since you were a child, or was that something you developed the interest later on in your life?
No, I was always very good at math. I remember winning a math competition in third grade. We had little cars and she put them up like across a racetrack and I won and the boys were all mad at me because I beat all the boys. But they just came naturally to me. Words, not so much. Writing, spelling, not so great at. I'm okay, but thank God for spell check and for Grammarly and all the other things we have now that help us write.
Absolutely. So as you grew up, where did the interest in the numbers take you?
Well, when I was in college, I had a scholarship for 2 years at a community college in my next to my hometown, and I'm like, "Well, I gotta take advantage of that. Why would I waste that?" And one of the teachers there said, "You'd be really good at accounting." I'm like, "Okay," so my major ended up to be accounting. I was really good at it, and I still am really good at it, but I found I did not like it. Did it for 20 plus years, but really hated the month end and all the stuff that repeated all the time. It was just, but I got very good at it and I found ways to streamline that. So that's what I ended up doing. How can I make it easier for me every month? How can I make it so somebody else could do it if something happened to me? Because in a couple workplaces we had people that all of a sudden passed away or left and you were stuck trying to figure out what they did. So I always wanted to make sure that if something happened to me, somebody else could step in and do my job because
Mm,
I created processes that were very easy and very well documented so anybody could do them. And
mm.
that's what I do today.
Oh, that's very powerful to have. So
Mhm.
there are so many entrepreneurs. There are, regardless whether entrepreneurs, whether in the corporate world, wherever you are at, what happens is that there are so many repetitive tasks
Mhm.
where what you're doing is you're just doing things the old way. So can you share, let's say, whether it's a seasoned entrepreneur or a beginner, how would you tell them that what are a few steps that they can take today to streamline their operations?
Well, one of the things you want to do is document your process because if you don't have it documented, it's not going to get done the same way all the time. And that's where errors start to happen. So, one of the things that Excel does is you can create a macro by recording it. Now, it doesn't always work just by recording it. There's some tweaks that have to be done behind the scenes. So, sometimes they don't actually work really well unless you know what you're doing with them. But that is a great way to get a lot of information done very quickly. So thinking about those repetitive tasks, what is the task that takes the most time? What's the one you dread? Oh my God, what's the one you hate doing? That's the one you want to get automated, because let me tell you, it takes away that stress of doing it. It makes it accurate, and you can hand it off to somebody else, or you can still do it because now it's easy and quick because it's done for you. But it's paying attention to those things that are typically, what's the bottleneck in your business? And typically it comes down to us, right? It's something we're doing that's taking too much time, or we're spending time that isn't in our own wheelhouse. And that's where we're wasting time and money. Oops, you're on mute, Divya.
You have had so many years of experience. So can you share a few examples so that people can resonate? That, oh yeah, Tina talked about this situation. It matches exactly mine.
Exactly. So back in my corporate days, one of them, several of them, there were so many, but as an accountant, I always found errors, and I would always dig deep to figure out where the errors would come from. And just thinking about, okay, how can I fix this? How can I work with the people that are doing whatever they're doing? So I would just go out and say, hey, something's not coming through right. And can you show me what you do? And they would show me, and I would see it. And it's like, oh, now I get it. So I would make, one of them was in a shipping department. We'd ship out our parts, and they didn't have the right numbers because there was two different columns in our process. One was shipped and one was made, and they had to compare those numbers, and they were like 4 columns apart, and an 8 looks like a 9 when you're just glancing down, so you didn't see it. So I just made a little system that they would run. It took them all of maybe 5 seconds to run it, but it made it accurate for them because it took those 2 columns and subtracted one from the other, put in a dash if it was 0 and a number if it was off. So by having that number, they knew to go check them. So what happened with that, 1, it made our parts accurate, but 2, it saved our accounts payable department an hour and a half a day on one vendor's invoice because it was so large every day, because now it was accurate. We weren't having to stop and look for things. Another example is a monthly one. That one was a daily one. So a monthly one was a client doing taxes, monthly taxes he had to do out of state. And he didn't know how to get the information out of his system. He was using QuickBooks. So 1, I taught him how to do that. But then we downloaded all the information into Excel, and I created a process for him to use that he was a 4-hour process each month. Now he was done in 10 minutes because Excel automated it. Took out the human error of calculation because he had to calculate numbers based on what was sent. And had to do conversions, and that was all now done for him. And he's like, I don't even need to do that taxes out of my state anymore because he has a distributor. He's a microbrewer, but he still uses it because he gets his Wisconsin stuff done so quickly. So it's just things that take time, that are out of your wheelhouse. They may be out of your wheelhouse, maybe not. But still, if it's something that's repeatable, we can automate a majority of it.
So you mentioned something about in-state and out-of-state. So a lot of people are very, very skeptical about, or, hands off, like, oh, I don't like numbers. So tell us, for an entrepreneur, what are the key things in their operations and their cash flow that they need to pay attention to?
Well, and they need to pay attention to their income and expenses. So many people do not know where they stand each month, and that's scary because you're not making good decisions based on your own business, and you're not seeing trends that are happening because you're not looking. And it can be it doesn't have to be hard. It can be pretty easy to get that information. But if you're not looking at that information come the end of the year, if you've had a ton of sales and not all that many expenses, you're going to be paying a lot more in taxes. So you may want to invest in something before the end of the year to cut your tax rate, so you might be able to buy some new equipment or buy some software or buy some training or do something that's going to help you with your tax bill. Another thing is you can see trends in expenses. Maybe you missed something, or maybe you were double charged for something. So if you're paying attention to that on a monthly basis and looking year to year, you can analyze and see that information of what's missing or what may have been doubled up for you. So it's really knowing, and it empowers you to have that knowledge. So it's allowing you to run your business the best that it can be. And you know where you're at, so you have peace of mind. You take away that scariness of not knowing, like, oh my God, am I going to have enough to pay this bill this month? That all goes away because it puts you in charge of your money.
So what I'm hearing is that it's important to not only keep track of your expenses and income every month, which is really important, but also to look at your numbers and see what are the trends, if any trends that you are seeing. So I definitely want to share my own story. I agree with you. So when I had started out initially, see, when you're in a corporate job, what happens is it's very simple. You get one paycheck and that's about it. And then you're doing your monthly expenses, you have the budget spreadsheets. So I just kind of created a simple budget spreadsheet, and it was easy to follow and keep track of things. Then when you start business, there's so many different aspects. You may have your website domain, and then there is you're paying hosting fees. Then you're also paying for if you have a LLC or C Corp. There's so many different directions that you're doing. So I had no clues. I was just going and doing it. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I found who is a very good friend of mine, my accountant, bookkeeper, whatever we want to call her, my financial advisor. Everything rolled into one. And she said, "This is a mess, Divya." And then as she started helping me, it became very obvious that some projects were not doing well. Some projects were doing well. So can you talk about some of the trends that you have observed for entrepreneurs that they should look out for?
Well, absolutely. There's, so many different things that we should be tracking that we typically don't. And I've been guilty of it myself as well. What are our actions that we're doing? If we want to grow our sales and we want to hit our numbers, we can't make people buy, but we can track our actions. How many sales conversations are you having? How many reach outs are you doing? How many follow-ups are you doing? Are you inviting people? These are things that we can track, that we control what we do. And lots of people, and myself included until very recently, hadn't tracked any of that information. And that's really allowing me to take charge of my business and run the business the way I want it to be run. But trends with other things, when I was in corporate, one of the things that we did was track all of our production and if there was issues in production. And so every month I would create kind of like a dashboard of what was going on. And it was showing the errors that were happening. And what we would do is take that, and then the place that had the highest errors that month, we would go out and look and see what was happening. And we were able to fix the errors because we were looking at it, because we were aware of what was going on and we were seeing those trends. So the next month we would see that one go down, and then we'd pick the next highest one. So we were able to eliminate so many errors out in our production floor. We became very efficient and it took away a lot of our overhead costs because we weren't having to throw away parts. We weren't wasting product. And so it really helped us have a bigger income because we were now able to sell that many more products and not throw stuff away.
No, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what you're talking about, that it's not just about having the numbers in that Excel spreadsheet. It's also about taking every aspect of your business and putting it in a tracker and analyzing it, because data speaks for itself. And as you're doing it, especially as you mentioned about lead generation, it's just like sales calls. Like what you're doing is, if you have that spreadsheet set up, like, you're just dropping in, and then as you're building your CRM in Excel, and CRM is customer relationship management, of course, you can have something like that, like as active campaign, constant contact. I mean, there's so many other things, but you can also go ahead, and especially if you're starting out new, have that Excel spreadsheet as you're talking about, and see, like, okay, how many follow-ups did you do? Did you miss out on someone? Because that's what's going to help your business grow and scale. So tell us, like, if somebody is trying to go ahead and create a spreadsheet, what are some of the mistakes to avoid?
Oh, a lot of the mistakes that I see, and some of them may not be necessarily a mistake, they're just not using Excel to its capacity. So one is they're not creating a table. So a table in Excel, you physically have to go up on the Home tab. There's a thing that says Format as Table. And what that does for you is it makes that section dynamic. So if you add rows to it, it's automatically included. So you never have to worry about, is my range right? Because it's a dynamic table. So it automatically does that for you. But it also has, when you make a table, you get a tab called the Table Tools. And so on there is a total row. And what's really cool about the total row is it automatically will put in a sum, or you can change it to a count, or you can create your own formula. But when you filter down to a specific item or group of items, it will change that total at the bottom to just be what's being shown. Whereas if you use a sum total, that is just going to always show the entire sum for everything, even though a bunch of it's hidden. The subtotal, using the sum, it's a equal subtotal, and then it has a number for sum, and then it gives you the range. And what that does for you is makes your data so much easier to see, because when you filter, like if you have a specific name or a program and you filter down to that, then you can see just data, and it gives you the totals for all of that data alone. And that's huge, because most people don't understand how to see that. So a lot of people waste a lot of time trying to get that information, and it can be really fast and easy. Another mistake that I see is they'll put in a blank column or a blank row in the middle of their data. Excel doesn't like that so much. So, just make your columns a little wider, or if you want to see a little bit of space or something, but don't have anything blank in between your data, because Excel doesn't like working with that so much.
Well, that is a very powerful nuggets that you have shared over there, because then what happens is, like, what you're talking about is that take pieces or portions of your business, if you were to recap it, and as we look at different areas, document the process. Once you have documented the process, look at where the errors are happening, and where the errors are happening, fix it and optimize it. And by doing this, you're creating efficiency. And when you create efficiency, have you seen, like, with your personal entrepreneurs and all that, like, how they're finding more money in their business by being more efficient?
Oh, definitely. And not just the money part of it, but it's the time that they take back, because being efficient means, hey, I don't have to spend this much more time on this project. I'm also not wasting all my mental energy on it, because, oh my God, it's quick and easy now. So one of the ladies that's using my Fortune follow-up system, she's like, oh my God, my desk is clear. I don't have notes and papers all over my desk, and I can find stuff. She goes, it makes me look like a genius, because she has her information just like that by just clicking a couple mouse buttons without having to. Just before, she would flip through notepads and rummage through file folders, have to file stuff. She doesn't have to do any of that now because it's all right there at her fingertips without that struggle or anxiety of looking for something and you can't find it, because God only knows. I used to have, I would have a notebook for different things. Well, then your last minute you run out and, oh, I can't find the right notebook. I'll just put it in this one. Well, I never went back and put things together. So I have no idea where that stuff went. It's just like, oh. So having it all in one spot makes it so much more efficient for me as well, and easy to use. And that's what's important, because if whatever system you want or have, you want to make it easy so you'll use it. And it needs to be effective for you. So it's really just doing what you need it to do. Everybody says, oh, I need an app. I need an app. I need an app. I'm like, I don't want another app. I really don't. I like being able to do things in Excel because I'm really good at them. And for me, it's just easier than, I don't need to go to my phone. I don't like using my phone. I'm one of the, I know I'm one of the few, but I'm not one of those people that are stuck on my phone all day long. And to me, the phone is too little to begin with. I have one of the bigger phones, but it's so little, I have a hard time seeing it. So for me, it's partly my eyes, but it's just easier for me to do in Excel.
But there are a lot of entrepreneurs in their 50s and 60s, like 50 plus entrepreneurs. And I'm not saying that this is not applicable for people who are not yet 50. So tell us, you described about the system as to what can be included in one system. So again, what happens is if you have multiple spreadsheets, then I don't know about others, but sometimes I've had things, you have the best of the apps and you end up not using it. So what is it like? Tell us about that. Is it like a one-stop system such that it makes it so easy that the use that you have seen is like people use it? Or is it like, because if you don't use it, then it's of no use? Yeah.
So like my fortune follow-up system that I created, what I love about this system is every time I talk to somebody, I put in a new row. So a new row is a record. That's all you think about it. Think about a database. Every time they put something in, it was a new record. So when I talk to somebody, I can go back and look at all the times I've talked to them before, and I have all my notes in one place on one screen. I'm not searching for it. And I know when I talk to them. What this system does is it gamifies it. So it color codes based on today's date, and it shows you who you should be talking to this week. If you missed any, they will color code to yellow. So the current week is green. Yesterday and 7 days back is yellow. And if there's any older than that, they turn red. And once you say that you followed up or that you didn't want to, or whatever you tell it, it'll take those colors away. So it becomes a game to make all the colors go away. So it's gamifying it. But what I love about this system is it has all your information that you need in one spot. There's a tab for any of your links to share. So like my website, any programs that I have going, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, all of that stuff is in one spot. And I can just copy it and paste it into any chat really quickly without having to do anything. It has a place for your wins. So anytime something happens that's awesome every day, you should be writing down a win, because when you get down, and as women entrepreneurs, we tend to be harder on ourselves. We can go back and look at what we've accomplished. And that's huge, because we don't think very often and we don't celebrate what we do. So that's big. There's another one for client testimonials. So anytime somebody gives you a testimony, you can have that all in one spot. So it's easy to find. And then it's the sales tracking. How am I doing? And you get to set what you want to track and it color codes as well. So if you made your goal, it turns green. If you're 20% under, it's yellow within 20 to 0, or 180 to 100% basically. And then under that, it turns red. So it helps you to see where you are at. We want to get to be all green, but when you're setting a goal, it should be a push goal. So we want to push ourselves to get there. So it's not going to be all green at the time, but it helps us to be able to improve our own skills and what we want to do. And the funnest part is every time you get a new client, you get a star. So I love getting the little stars. So but it really helps you to be focused on what you need to focus on to move the needle in your business.
Definitely, that makes sense. Because rather than having multiple things, what you're doing is you have like one system where you can go and access all the details, and makes life easier, like as you're saying that. And especially if you keep on adding as you're going along. Now, question for you, does it also include the tasks that need to be done every week?
You can put in the tasks of whatever you need to do. It's up to you how you want to use it. I don't put in tasks there. That is not my goal, but my goals are what I need to do. So that's kind of my tasks that I think about. It's not any other to-do list or anything. I don't have that in there. I could probably put it in, but I don't want it to be overwhelming for people either. So it's all about what's the best resource for what people need that are afraid of a CRM. They still may have a CRM. And I have people, just about everybody that I have using this system has a CRM, but this is more for their notes. I had that CRM that did everything. And I spent thousands of dollars, probably $6,000, having them set it up and do all the stuff. And I never got it. I did not understand it. It was just so overwhelming for me because things would move. And I'm like, where did it go? I didn't understand it. So I finally just said, you know what? Just get out of here, count my losses and move on. So I created my own system about a little over a year ago and have added to it as people have used it and thought, I'd love to see that tracking and different things. So that's all come a part of it. And it's been so much fun doing it because I'm seeing how it's helping people. And that's what I love to do.
Absolutely. So now you talked about women not celebrating, and so tell us what stops women from celebrating themselves.
Well, for myself, I think a lot of it was just being so self-critical, I wanted to do that and I didn't do it. I'm such a failure, and saying things like that. We need to change our own mindset to be more positive. And by celebrating a win every day, it's just like a gratitude. It could be either one, what are you grateful for? What was good? What was whatever? It's raising our vibrations, and raising our vibrations helps bring more good to us. So it's taking away. God, I remember my first coach back probably 15 years ago saying, you need to not be so hard on yourself. Like, okay, great. How do I do that? She didn't tell me that it's giving myself self-affirmations that I'm a good person. Whatever it is, that I can do this, I've got this, whatever that may be for you. I didn't understand it. So I didn't really heed what she said because I didn't get it. Just like doing goal setting. Everybody told me to set a money goal. Okay, that's easy. I can break that down to how much I need to make a second. But how do I do it? I didn't get that it was my actions. How many conversations am I doing? How many reach outs am I doing? Until I really understood that it's my actions and really doing a lot of self work that every entrepreneur, if you end up becoming an entrepreneur, you don't realize how much self-work you're going to do,
Oh, yeah.
because that's what really moves the needle. It's like, oh, learning this or that about yourself, going, oh, I see that. I had several that I've broken through, and I'm sure there's more onion peels to go through yet, but layers. But it was just one of my big ones was because of my open heart surgery and everybody telling me you're lucky to be alive. I thought I didn't get any more. I didn't deserve to be abundant or happy or loved or anything because I just got to be alive. Now that's very sad, and I've overcome that, but I've found other layers to it. And it's just kind of interesting how, had I stayed in corporate, I don't know that I would have ever learned any of that about myself. Because a lot of corporate people don't do this kind of work.
No, that's fantastic. So as we kind of draw the show to a close, what would be 5 simple steps to excel profits in a business?
The 5 simple steps. 1, do some training, because people think they know Excel. I used Excel starting 1993, I believe, is when I started using Excel. And I used Quattro Pro and I used Lotus 1, 2, 3 before those. So I've used a lot of spreadsheets. And I worked in corporate up until 2011, and I started teaching Excel. I was always the go-to person, and I just called and said, hey, I want to get out of corporate. I want to teach. And I was hired because they knew my skills. And I went in and started teaching and went, oh my God, I don't know anything. I didn't know about tables. They came out with the 2007 version of Excel. So most of us that are in our 50s and 60s don't know a lot of the things Excel does, because we haven't stayed up with learning the new things. And so take a class or two and really see what you can do. And if you need help, I'm here. That's what I love to do is when I do training, I also give implementation time, because I had to go back to work and after taking a class and sit there and figure out, how am I going to do that with this? And I got really good at it. And I can just look at data and just go, oh, I know what you need to do. You need to move this here and do that and blah, blah. And so that to me is one of the neatest things, is when I can show people, if they take their download from their system, we can make it go like that. And that's just really cool. So it's really about learning a little bit more about Excel and seeing what they can do with it, because they think most people have it, but don't know a whole lot about it.
Yep. So where can they find you and connect with you?
Well, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, it's www.excelling with 1 L, because it's a play off of Microsoft Excel. So excellingyourbusiness.com.
Oh, fantastic. Any last tip that you'd like to share?
Just that I have really enjoyed this format. This has been fun, because I've not really done one of these on TV or on the radio. And it's just, I love sharing about what the possibilities are of Excel, because so many people just think, oh yeah, I got that system, but it doesn't do much. And when it really is working for them instead of them working it as it should be, they are amazed. They are amazed.
Well, thank you for joining us, Tina.
Thank you, Divya. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, listeners, for being part of our show. We love you. Let us know how we can support you. Which experts would you like to hear from, so that they can help you live the life you want and deserve? And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.